up, Buckeye Nation? I know we're all feeling better after last weekend, but are things really fixed? I'll dig into that and the upcoming Purdue game after the intro. Welcome to Buckeye Football Fangirl. If this is your first time here, my name is Lisa and I'm the gal behind this channel. I love these Ohio State Buckeyes and I tend to get a little overexcited about all of their games each week. If you're watching this, I'm going to assume that you might love the Buckeyes just as much as I do. So thank you so much for tuning in, and thank you everyone who comments. I love reading your comments each week. They are one of the highlights of my week. Penn State gave the Buckeyes quite a fight, but as usual, James Franklin failed to get his team over that hump, and the Buckeyes took home the victory. And honestly, that game was so fun to watch as a Buckeye fan. That defense was fire. They played their hearts and their souls out against that Penn State team. That Penn State offense is not a bad offense, yet they were not able to score any offensive touchdowns. Our defense locked them down, and I just love to see that. And when you look at that goal line stop, where they stopped Penn State on the 1 yard line, and they did not get a score, you have to be happy with how they played. On our offensive side of things were a little bit on the hot and cold side. Sometimes our offense was able to drive it down the field and get into the end zone. Other times we had to rely on our field goal kicker, which, thank goodness, he nailed 2 field goals for us, and that was clutch. Will Howard might have been a little bit hot and cold during this game, but all in all, I love the leadership that we see from him. He did not get fazed even after his 2 big mistakes, which honestly could have cost the Buckeyes the game. That interception in the first quarter, and then the fumble into the end zone at the second quarter, that could have been killer and a 14-point swing. However, the rest of the team rallied around him and he did not let it affect his play. I love how he can just forget about those plays. And we've all said it and we've all seen it. He is the quarterback that we need him to be. He doesn't have to be a superstar quarterback. He might make 1 or 2 plays where you're just left scratching your head, wondering what he was thinking. But all in all, he has what it takes, in my opinion, to lead this team to an amazing end of the season. He gets the job done, and it is so hard not to like him, even when he might fail us big time. In the end, he always makes up for any of the mistakes that he does make. Another thing that was great about this game is our run game came to play. It was so great seeing our run game get some traction after watching them struggle in that game against Nebraska. And a lot of that had to do with the reformed offensive line. So there were some shifts that happened before the game and some adjustments due to the injuries. But overall, what we saw in that Penn State game was such a huge improvement from the Nebraska game, and it was something that we needed to see. Seeing Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins both have a game at running back and being able to run the clock down on the game at the end of the game in the fourth quarter when they needed to, that also was so huge to this Buckeye victory. So that leads me to a question. Is this team really fixed? Was the Nebraska game that we saw just a fluke? Was this Penn State game a fluke? It's hard to know for sure. It really, really is. But one of the things I want to take a look at and kind of start talking about is the overall narrative around this team. I have to say, all in all, we thought the sky was falling after that Nebraska game. It seemed like almost everybody was talking about firing the coaches, benching players, so on and so forth. I have to say, this is the same team. The same team, for the most part, the same team that we saw on the field against Nebraska came up against Penn State and just played their tails off. Yes, there were some much needed adjustments made on the offensive line, and our field goal kicker had a better game, thank goodness. However, it's the same players, it's the same coaches, and sometimes I just start to feel like the overall narrative that we're hearing and that is shaping our perspective on games, it isn't always true. There's a narrative out there that Ryan Ryan Day can't win big games when honestly, one or two things bounce the opposite team's way and Ohio State loses the game. Yeah, it sucks for us as fans. We don't want to see our team lose, and it starts to feel like, okay, maybe Ryan Day can't get his team over that hill. However, as we see in games like the Penn State, when they show up and they're prepared, they are just ready to let it go, play their hearts out, and they get it done. So now that everybody is happy about this team, we saw what we wanted to see in that Penn State game. We saw the defense take a stand when they needed to and stop Penn State from scoring. We saw the offense do what it needed to do, run the clock out, get the scores on the board beforehand when they needed to, and now everyone's happy, as we all should be. However, the overall narrative has shifted because of this one game. Are things fixed? It seems like those changes that they made on the offensive line worked. I'd like to think that things are fixed, but as we know about this team, all it takes is maybe a little slip up, not performing exactly like we think that they should in a game against a team that we might not see as being quite at the level of Ohio State, and that narrative changes again. I don't know. It's kind of crazy. Sometimes it makes my head spin, but I don't know. I don't really want to ride this roller coaster of emotions with this team where it's constantly up and down and up and down and all over the place. I love this team. I will root for them come what may. I am actually pretty happy overall with the coaching staff that's there. From what I know about it anyways, it seems like they're doing a fantastic job connecting with the players, getting them ready to play in these big games. Yeah, there's rumors of maybe development this, development that, recruiting misses, so on and so forth, and things like that do need to be fixed. However, this team still feels really special to me this year. Everything that they wanted to play for is still in front of them. All of their goals are on the table, and I love that for them. I get the freak out after a weird game like Nebraska, after losing to a team like Oregon, but you guys, this is still the same team. These are still the same coaches. Personally, my opinion is that the Nebraska game was somewhat of a fluke. I don't know what was happening. Bye week, who knows what. However, this team is incredible. They're going to do special things, mark my words. And I'm going to be pulling for them no matter what. All right, let's talk just a little bit about this game that we have coming up on Saturday. Thankfully, this is finally a game where we can relax a little bit. We can just watch the game. We can enjoy it. It shouldn't be a tight competition. It shouldn't be a close game. It should be one that we can just really enjoy watching together as fans of this incredible team. Ohio State's playing the Purdue Boilermakers this weekend, and the Boilermakers are led by head coach Ryan Walters. He's a fairly young head coach, and he previously played college ball at Colorado. He has coached at Oklahoma, Memphis, Missouri, and most recently Illinois before being offered the head coach position at Purdue. This is his first head coach position, and unfortunately, it has not gone exactly as you would want a first head coach position to go. He is a defensive-minded coach. However, Purdue is just not having a great season this year. They actually even fired their offensive coordinator not even halfway through the season back at the beginning of October because things were so bad for them offensively. Their record is currently 1-7, and they are ranked dead last in the entire Big Ten. So you see, this shouldn't be a game that we have to be worried about, thankfully. Hudson Card will be starting for them at quarterback, and he is a transfer from Texas who came into the school this year. All in all, looking at their team, seeing the struggles that they've had in the games that they played thus far. Now, they have had a couple close games, but these are close games to teams like Northwestern. So I personally don't expect much of a game from them this weekend. This is a great chance to just relax, exhale for a little bit until we get to some of the final games in the regular season. So let's just enjoy this game this weekend. Make sure you soak this up because guys, we are already 2/3 of the way through this football season. That's right, 2/3 of the way through this season. We only have 4 regular season games left. And that is just crazy to me. This year feels like it's flying by, and this football season especially feels like it's flying by. Before we know it, we will be in the postseason. So let's soak it up while we have it. If you have any thoughts for me on either this Purdue game that we have coming up or anything that you loved from the Penn State game or want to comment on about from the Penn State game, you don't have to love it. You can comment on maybe things you didn't like or things that you might still be, nervous or worried about with this Ohio State team. Go ahead, drop me a comment below. I would love to hear from you. That's all I've got for you this week. I'll see you on the other side of the game. OH.